All right, guys. Kevin Hale here, shooting from the lip. Round of sports shots. Doing it. Hope everyone has been well, doing well as we get ready to get into UK football season, college football season. This coming Saturday. Well, actually, there were some games that started this past few days too. I don't know who they were, but college football did start. Anyways, we've got at least four major topics that we're going to get into tonight with my distinguished panel. Let me start off by introducing Michelle Brown. Michelle, what's up?
Not much. Glad to be back. Glad you revived this podcast. A lot of fun.
Give us something to do on a Sunday night. Carrie Lewis and the news, and her news. Carrie, what's up?
What's going on? Glad to be back in part of the process of this whole
The
thing.
process, yes, the process.
Trust it. You have to trust
That's
it.
right.
it.
You got
to
to.
trust it. And last but not least, she's been my podcast wifey for a while, and she is recognized as a shooting from the lip contributor, Heather Tungate. Heather, what's up, lady?
How we doing, my love?
Oh,
I've missed you.
yeah, the feeling's mutual. Let's talk sweet talk and give them a cavity.
Sounds good to me.
All right.
Hey, look,
Yeah.
we separated. We're back together.
I know.
love you.
Yeah, love you more, love you long time. uh, Again, I mentioned we've got at least four topics tonight. I want to throw at the panel. Uh, Involve Ohio State, involve Maryland. This is football programs. Um, we'll talk UK men's hoops, uh, reviewing their trip, the Bahamas trip, and we'll look ahead to UK's football game this coming Saturday. Let's start with Ohio State. This debacle involving Urban Meyer was last week. This past week, the school laid out the 3-game suspension, or as I think it's affectionately come to be known as the slap on the wrist. Um, with that presser, with the announcement, not only was Meyer suspended, but so as well as their AD. He got hit with, I want to say, I don't know exactly how much time he got, but anyways, one thing that didn't happen um, prior to them coming on and having the conversation, they did not release the findings to the media prior to that, which would have probably took that whole event to a different level. Since then, the document showed that Meyer and Smith, the AD Smith, knew a lot more than they were, leading us to believe. Let me start with you, Heather, because you've got family, hubby, Ohio State fan. Uh, what's it? I mean, what's been your take? Give me his take as well.
You know what, honestly, I think what is sickening is that you have a guy who, let's be honest, he knew what was happening with his program, with his coaches, that just kind of ignored, you know, uh, uh, he didn't kind of ignore, he ignored that, that he had a coach on his staff who didn't clearly give a shit about women, period.
Hmm.
And you're talking about a guy who also, while he was at Florida, he didn't kind of ignore. He ignored the signs with, I don't know, and I don't want to speak ill of the dead, but you know where I'm going with this.
Hmm.
this is a guy that wants to win, and I get that with any Division I college basketball coach or college basketball, college football coach. You know, that's the end game for their for their job. That's what they're there to do. But this guy clearly knew what was going on. He clearly ignored what was happening. And if anybody believes that his wife didn't even discuss college basketball, college or football didn't say anything about what was happening, that's please the tell me what rock you lived under, because for their job, that's what they're there. Clearly trying to save his job, trying to save his team, what he could do this season potentially, and shame on Ohio State. Honestly, shame on them, because again, you're talking about a guy that they thought is, and I made this comparison very, very early on, that when Urban Meyer was hired at Ohio State, he was a John Calipari of basketball. What I didn't count on was the fact that he would be a giant douche, and he would not support a good, clean program, which ironically, I know people are going to laugh about. John Calipari always has, on the basketball side anyway.
Mm-hmm. Let me get Michele. Jump in. Your take.
Well, I can't disagree with anything that Heather said. The thing that disturbed me about that whole press conference thing was they had such an amazing opportunity. They could have had a very real and meaningful discussion about domestic violence. They could have had a very real and honest discussion about respecting women, and about how there are certain things that are greater than football. And they had the platform where, had they chosen to approach any of these topics, their words could have carried significant weight. And instead, all they did was show that winning football games trumps everything, including humanity.
Yeah.
Yep.
Integrity took a backseat, Carrie, to in this situation, in my opinion. Is this another example of the good old boys network?
I don't know if it's necessarily an example of that as much it is this win at all costs culture mentality. Especially at programs like Ohio State. Because that booster, you got to keep those boosters happy. You got to keep that booster money rolling in. And that's, to do that, you got to win. But, Urban Meyer, he's a champion of men, right? Urban Meyer is the Rick Pitino of college football. He is a lying liar who lies. Every single thing that comes out of his mouth is a lie. It was at Florida. It's coming out now that he covered up a lot of stuff at Florida. A lot of stuff. And what's even worse is, at least Pitino just lies when things come out of his mouth. Urban Meyer then just tries to justify those lies using medical health issues.
Yeah.
And his wife.
Yeah, it's nonsense, but it's this win at all costs mentality.
Mm-hmm.
And when he put that apology, and I'm air quoting, I know you can't see that on the radio, but the whole thing was, I should have, I wasn't real clear about how sorry I am, and what a horrible thing, and he felt bad for Courtney Smith, and blah 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 blah. And my response was, if only you could have remembered to feel this way during the press conference, and if only you could have remembered what you will not tolerate from your staff. Made a big thing. He will not tolerate that kind of behavior from anyone on his staff, but yet he tolerated it for several years. If only we could believe one stinking word of that apology, but we can't.
Yeah, the first presser that they did, he didn't even acknowledge Courtney Smith, and it took some prodding, or somebody had to say, hold up, you called him out behind the scenes, and then he comes out with a statement or whatever, acknowledging her. But Heather, what is alarming to me is that th- there are tons of Ohio State people who are standing by Urban, not just in a way that makes it look like he totally did nothing wrong, and that's very alarming. So jump in with your husband being a fan. I mean, how does it? How does he? I mean, what's the conversations like in your home?
Honestly, in my home, I looked at him and I said, if you if you even support this guy, how do you look at your girls?
Mm,
And we have twin daughters. How do you look at your girls and say this behavior is okay?
right.
He it's frankly it's disturbing. You're talking about a guy who will, besides all this extracurricular stuff, he's a good football coach.
Oh, great.
He
Yeah.
clearly is,
Yeah.
but you're talking about a guy that blatantly doesn't give a shit, a rat's ass about what his players are doing, about what his coaches are doing. And the alarming thing about the whole press conference was that when the reporter asked him what message he had for Courtney Smith the first time, he
Right.
said, "I'm sorry we're in this position." We're? There's
Yeah.
no we're.
I know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's no we. Nobody's in a position. The only position you put yourself in is that you couldn't fire a coach because you had a personal connection with, like, what was it, his dad or something? And
It's his
yeah,
grandfather. The
grandfather,
Yeah.
rather. Yeah,
Yeah.
the only personal connection you could not. You How do you? I don't care. I do not care how much you know somebody or how much you think you know somebody. But if they are mistreating another human being, whether it's a child or an adult, a female, a male, it doesn't matter. If you know systemically what they are doing is wrong, how do you support them? You
Mm.
can't. And he turned a blind eye. He was guilty. He was found guilty. And frankly, the fact that Ohio State kept him completely shows me they're all about the money.
Uh,
And
Go ahead.
what were Ohio State fans' reaction with the whole Joe Paterno and Jerry Sandusky
Oh, they lit
situation?
them up. They lit them up.
And see,
Mm.
there you go. There is the
Good point.
total hypocrisy there.
Mm-hmm.
Well, where's the NCAA in all of this? I mean, they brought the hammer down on Penn State. They've brought the hammer down on people for less, in terms of, like, kids selling memorabilia, or the whole gold pants incident
Yeah.
with Tyrod Taylor and all that at Ohio State. Where's the NCAA?
Well, that was my next
I think
take
they've got a safe list. They've got 3 or 4 schools that
Mm-hmm.
they will die on the hill for them.
Mm.
North
Yep.
Carolina, Duke, Ohio State, and probably UCLA.
Mm. Hmm.
And they will die on the hill for all of them, and everybody else. It's just like such a horrible bunch of things happened at Ohio State. So you better watch out, because I'll guarantee you somewhere next week a Division II school is going to get the death penalty because somebody had cream cheese on a cracker.
Yeah.
Well, and honestly, can we talk for a minute about how Terrell Pryor, who was, who the starting quarterback for Ohio State, how many years ago, received a free tattoo, and how many games was he suspended? And by the way, Jim Tressel, who was the head
Yep.
coach at the time, who lied to the NCAA, was fired. He was let
Yeah.
go from Ohio
'Cause-
State. But yet
yeah.
you're talking about a guy in Urban Meyer who clearly knew what was happening, but because apparently he has a bad memory, the NCAA turns a blind eye, and all these people associated with Ohio State. How do you look at yourself? Like, this is disrespectful. If any of these Ohio State fans have daughters, which I'm sure a majority of them do, Seriously, you are advocating a guy who clearly doesn't respect women and doesn't respect the fact that there was a dude on his staff that he ignored beat the crap out of his wife. I mean, like, I just don't get it. It's so infuriating to me. You know what, Kevin? I just don't. It's. I
Well,
don't know.
let
I
me
don't know what else to say.
let me add to what this guy Zach Smith what is also was uncovered, and we'll move
Oh,
on to the next stop. You know, he he's had several run-ins with the law. That was not domestic violence related. He took pictures of him having sex with the staffer. He took pictures of his junk at the White House.
I
I
know.
mean, good God, this guy is
had sex toys delivered to
sex
his office.
to the school. So I mean, wow. And with Urban Meyer, here's the thing. Like I said, the slap on the wrist, he gets to practice. He's practicing, conducting practice right now. He just cannot participate on game day. So again,
A Grayson Allen level suspension.
something to that
Oh, it
effect.
absolutely was.
All right, next topic. University of Maryland football. They had the what was it, a couple months ago? The football player, was it Justin McNair, died. It turns out his death was heat related due to, I guess, a heat stroke. The fallout from there was that the medical staff, whatever, they did not do their part in getting him the assistance. Uh, a lot of it now, since that his death, they've talked about the toxic culture at Maryland. The football coach is on leave right now. They did fire one of the what was it? The trainers, um, the president, and the AD. Now, albeit they came out and took full responsibility of the situation of the death, which basically means to me is that whatever the family is going to sue them for, it will get settled or whatever. It won't even go to court. They'll do their part to make that right. But Michelle, it took 2 months, about 2 months for the AD and the president to actually meet with the family. Again, here's a situation where, Michelle, is college football, because college football is a different animal because
Well,
you got summer practices, which are for a lot of the southern, a lot of schools. The heat is crazy. What has been your take from the Maryland situation and just in general when it comes to um, that
in
type?
in general, college football operates with this big code of secrecy, and very, very, very few football programs have any transparency at all. That everything is closed to the media, to the public. They don't want people to see how they operate a practice. They don't want them to see how they treat the players. And like, apparently there's, uh, I guess what you hear other people talk about in these things, that it's not just pushing them to the point of heat stroke or anything, but the belittlement of the
Hmm.
players. If you were to say, I think I'm having a heat stroke, well, you're too weak to be on this team, and they're going to sit there and call you names and unleash a barrage of profanity on you.
Hmm.
And I think that it's Wisconsin that they uh, consistently have open practices for the media. And one guy in the media asked their athletic director once, he said, why do you all do this? And he's like, it's just football, man. This is what's there to hide.
Right.
And the very sad thing is that you have to, like, point out, hey, there's one program that's not afraid to show that, and it's just an old boys club from top to bottom.
Hmm. That Carrie. When with college football, my vision, especially when it comes to practices, is like a bunch of drill sergeants running amok over these kids, ordering them, sir, yes, sir, and it's this whole alpha male, and this is with the coaches, and good God, the trainers, the strength coaches, those guys look like they're always jacked up on Mountain Dew or something, and just
Or
I had
math.
or some yeah, but yeah, Carrie, again, is it football is a different animal than all the other sports. It is it's a train wreck. It's a car wreck every time every play on the field. So that whole mentality that these kids are pushed and pushed and pushed. You know, and then with today's play now, you got all this safety concern. Um, what's been your take with this?
Well, I mean, I'm actually surprised in today's day and age that this kind of stuff is still happening, just because I think that especially I think more and more players are kind of like being in tune with like the what's the word I'm looking for here? Like the signs of a heat stroke or something like that, and actually being comfortable and saying, yeah, no, I'm going to stop. And maybe that's just my interpretation of things. I think it depends on the level that you're at, because if you watch Last Chance U, and you're talking about these coaches screaming and getting people's faces. Both the coaches on all three seasons, Buddy at East Mississippi, and then this new guy in Kansas in the third season. I mean, they're just constantly in these kids' faces, screaming and screaming and screaming. But I think when you get to a level like Alabama, yeah, Saban screams and his coaches scream, but those players are they're such an elite level. Whereas at Maryland, that's kind of in the middle. They're in the ACC, and they're not, or they're in the Big Ten. I'm sorry, and they're not, a super great Big Ten team, and that's kind of a stepping stone program for coaches. So sure, you want to push the players as hard as you can, because you're trying to get to the next level.
Mm-hmm.
You're not just for them, but for you. And the last point I kind of make on this is with strength training coaches, not trainers. Now, and I'm not talking about trainers. I'm talking about strength training coaches. That's a weird profession, because you can get like a certificate, but there's not necessarily like a professional degree that you can get in it. And so that whole thing is really kind of volatile and weird.
Mm-hmm. Heather, jump in.
You had a Division I college football player who was failed by his football, I don't know, staff, teammates, whatever. I mean, you're talking about a kid that clearly, you know what, I don't know from a medical standpoint if people realize what happens to kids when they are clearly overheated, or, what happens to them, extra risk factors, so on and so forth. This kid, and I say kid, and clearly he was a young man, but I say kid because I'm 37 years old. He clearly was on a football field. He overworked himself, and instead of any of his teammates or any of his coaches, which I don't even want to put this on his teammates, I want to put it on his coaches and the staff at Maryland. They instead of helping him or saying, you know what, you need to take a break, extended water break, whatever it was. I mean, heat is no joke. I don't think people really realize it doesn't matter what shape you're in, the amount of hydration you need when you're playing in extreme heat, and the amount of, just a break that you need. And unfortunately, this staff did not do that, and unfortunately, this kid's life is it's over, and it sucks.
Yeah.
It's sad.
I'm gonna go back to Michelle. Michelle, put yourself from a parent perspective. How would try to? Um, how do you react or respond to something like when you're a parent basically sending your child off to a school, a football program, and you're expecting um, the coaching staff, the everyone there at the school to take care of your baby, and then something like this happens. What's the mindset of a parent?
I can't even fathom
Yeah.
what that family is going through, because there's a certain level of trust, like you said, that you have, and that they could, no pun intended, drop the ball
Hmm.
in such an alarming fashion. I would probably make it my life's work at that point to just rip into all those people that were around, and I would not shut up, and I would probably try to start something where we go to every campus in this country
Hmm.
and make people aware of that thing, and make people demand more transparency. And if you're going to have these strength trainers, then there ought to be some kind of, instead of like a certificate, you should have, there ought to be certain things that you're qualified with, and that is like to recognize these signs
Right.
of health distress. You've got to have somebody medical on your staff. Why wouldn't you, with especially a sport that is so prone to injuries, when you're doing everything the right way?
Hmm.
Why would you not have someone medically related on your staff at all times for this? That would be my take on it.
Yeah. Uh, Sad situation, and again, football. It is a different type of sport, a different kind of mindset for the athletes, everyone participating, and this story will continue to play out. So, all right, next topic. Let's go. UK men's hoops. They had a pretty damn good showing in the Bahamas, 4-0. Um, I think based on the way Calipari, and I took it with a grain of salt. He kind of, he didn't have any put out any great expectations. He actually, correct me if I'm wrong, and said something to the fact that he expected a loss or two or maybe
He said they
four.
would go 1-3.
Yeah, one. So,
Mhm.
but they didn't. They went 4-0. They looked after the first game jitters, understood, but games 2 through 4, they looked pretty damn good. Start with you, Carrie. What was your take on the boys in the Bahamas?
Well, I mean, they did look good, and they pretty much destroyed every team that they played. What was that team that just beat Michigan that we destroyed by 36? I think it was.
Mega B-Max.
Yeah, Mega Betamax. Yeah,
Yeah.
Betamax. I should have remembered that because of the whole Betamax VHS thing.
Right.
Yeah, no, they looked. I mean, they looked extremely good. Obviously, it's very, very early in the season. Reed Travis. I don't know. He's a big boy, but I don't know what they taught him in the Pac-12. But he's got to keep the ball above his head. He's got to quit bringing that ball down.
Mm-hmm.
I have a hard time, with this. Oh, we're hanging number 9. We're hanging number 9 this year. This is a team, just because that's been the last several years, I felt like, and then it's kind of already come back to bite us in the ass. But I think I'm going to have more fun and look more forward to watching this team than I did the team last year.
Heather, what stood out for you?
You know what? Honestly, there were kids that, like, for an example, Tyler Hero. We didn't know what his role was going to be on this team. He's a straight shooter. I mean, not only did he, come out his defense. Let's be honest. is kind of subpar. But if you have a guy that's an offensive threat and can open up the court as much as that guy can, with him and Emmanuel quickly, it's going to be ridiculous. These This is a very, very good team. Big Blue Nation has no reason whatsoever to discredit what they're going to do or not be excited. However, I will say that we need to get better defensive play, especially, when it comes to our guards. Ashton Hagans played phenomenal, I think, as far as the defensive end when it came to the Bahamas trip, but we've got to have other guys step up. And Nick Richards, by the way, you want to talk about a surprise from this trip. You're talking about a kid that most of us, I think, wrote off. He played strong. I think he was a good rim protector. If Kentucky can keep that up, I think they're going to be fine.
Yeah, Michelle, Heather said most of us wrote off, but not all of us. And you were one that always had Nick's back. And to his credit, I think it's a confidence thing, and he showed it first game. But go ahead.
Well, and I told you all that, when everybody was saying that Calipari shouldn't have been starting him last year, Calipari knows what his players need. Everybody would overlook the fact that Nick maybe only play 7 or 8 minutes in a game. And, he didn't finish, but he started. And I think had he not done that Nick might have given up on himself. But I was lucky enough they had an open practice the week before they left for the Bahamas, and I was fortunate enough to be the one to cover that for Cameron Hills Radio. And to watch John Calipari conduct a real practice, not something that you see, like in a tournament setting, NCAA, you have an open practice for the public, or Madness, which is supposed to be a practice. This was an actual practice, and to watch Calipari teach them, and he was showing them this one play and explaining, you've got to go here, you got to do that. And, a couple of trips they would mess it up, but they caught on so quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And I was seeing things from the Bahamas that he was teaching them that day that I thought, man, that's going to be a couple of months of bumps and bruises before they figure that out. And I'm like, the first 5 minutes of the first game, I went, my gosh, that's what he was teaching them in practice, and that was flawless.
Right.
Yeah.
And all of them, and Quade Green, somehow I think he kind of got lost in the shuffle from which we saw Tyler Harrell do, what we saw Quickly do, and what we saw Hagans do, and Nick Richards. But Quade Green has got just a whole new mindset. And the thing that I liked the best, and we go back to Mega Beam, the concern about that game was how physical they were, and they complained to the refs that Kentucky was too physical. When was the last time that happened?
Been a while.
Right.
Been a while. Now, let me add this. With this team, clearly we have some experience. You take Reed Travis, who is a senior. He's a man. He's been through the grind, if you will. Granted, it's not to the customs of the daily practices that he probably had back in the day. Well, definitely didn't have back in the day at Stanford. And then you have PJ Washington, Nick Richards, who else? Quade Green. There's I know we tried it. Well, think about it. There's enough guys on this team that is the platoon, you think, an option with this team, Carrie?
I think so.
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to be called platooning. I think Cal will come up with another term for it.
Yeah.
Just because that's what he does. Who knows what he'll call it, but I could see that the option definitely being there, and probably is in the back of his mind.
Yeah, because with this team, Heather, there's at least 9, probably 10 deep that he can rotate about. There's a 10-man rotation with this team. Because remind me, who is it that didn't play?
E.J. Montgomery, but he played
Yeah,
the first
first
game,
game,
but
right,
he hurt his back.
right. But then
Yeah,
what was the Baker
Oh, and
kid?
Jamal Baker.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
both of them are expected to be
and
100% when they start fall practice.
right. So,
yeah, and often a majority of the players on the team right now will say Jamal Baker might be one of the best shooters on the team.
hmm
And I think
'Cause
we have 5 players that shot over 40% from 3 point.
yes, we
we
did.
did.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So with this team, Michelle, we got some shooters. We've got clearly got size. We have now defense. Defense will come around, and there's a lot of length,
And
and I definitely anticipate the defense to catch up with the offense. But man, this is talent wise is every bit of talented as what the 2000 what
well,
was it?
15, I think is what you're going
Yeah,
for.
I mean,
But I don't think that you have as many players right at this particular moment that would be projected as lottery picks. I mean, I
mm-mm,
think, for
mm-mm,
certain, Keldon Johnson,
right,
uh, and PJ Washington. But I think by the end of the year, that will be a different story, much like it was in 2015. We didn't see Devin Booker being a lottery pick, but there you go.
right,
But the thing about this team that I am most excited about, and like I said, I saw it in practice for myself. I mean, I saw it, and we have got a bunch of alpha dogs, man.
agreed.
They and I'm talking just this practice in front of the media, and they were going after each other. Like, I was so freaking impressed. I was like, oh my gosh, they were going harder in practice than I saw our team go in a lot of big games last year.
Mm-hmm.
And we need that. And these guys, they're not happy to beat you by 2. They want to beat you by 50.
Mm-hmm. I think
And I love it.
yeah, I do too. And then you kind of look ahead. The SEC this year, Carrie,
Oh,
bet it is going to be
brutal.
a really good league. Um, you know, I think from the media perspective, Kentucky's really the favorite again. But this is a league that's going to go 8 or 9 deep when it comes to NCAA tournament, and those, you know, those there's going to be some really good tests because I with this Kentucky team I do see it is a process to get us through the year, um, but I like our chances this coming season, Gary. So
Yeah, I definitely like our chances.
hmm
But and I thought we shot the ball very well from outside the arc on this Bahamas trip. Obviously, Tyler Hero is they're kind of looking to him to be like the kind of the 3-point specialist. But man, it's hard for me sometimes now to put my eggs in that basket, especially this early because Devin Booker is a hell of a shooter. And then just lost it in the tournament for whatever
mm
reason. Just totally went ice, V Vanilla iced it. Just went totally cold. So, the potential's there, the work ethic's there. I think they like each other. I think the talent's there. Um, but sometimes you just have to have that kind of spark of magic to happen come tournament time. But the SEC is going to be interesting because I think the SEC is going to be more physical this year than it has been in the past,
oh, definitely.
especially with like Tennessee. I think
Tennessee's
Auburn.
what top 10?
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
So
Yeah, and if Florida coming up, whatever. But yeah, I think the SEC and Frank Martin down there in South Carolina. I think the
mm,
SEC is going to be pretty physical. I think it's going to be tough.
yeah. Um, Heather, final thoughts heading into I guess that's the next or I guess yeah the first game. Well, let me backtrack a little bit. Duke, Kentucky's first game is against Duke. Duke had a nice showing in Canada. The competition, I don't think, was as strong as Kentucky had in the Bahamas, but Duke, I mean, those are two really good teams. Duke, I think that first game is going to be fun. Heather, somebody.
Yes, it was
Mm.
fun.
Yeah, it will be fun. It'll be 1 versus 2, and
Mm.
you're going to see a lot of talent on the court at the same time, which, you know what? Honestly, it's whether people want to agree or disagree, college basketball has been looking, I think, for a matchup of this caliber for a very long time, and they're going to get it. And it's going to be fun to watch. Depending on what fan base you're from, you may or may not want it or like it. But just as a general college basketball fan, whew, it's going to be a barn
Mm.
burner, as they say.
Well, Michelle, it's annually it's Kentucky and or Duke, Kentucky or Duke, 1 and 2 when it comes to recruiting. It seems like every year. So here we go, another a great way to start the season. The arguably the two most profile coaches in the college game, and again, it's it's going to be a great way to start the season. So
Yes, it is.
yes, it is. Okay, let's talk UK football. This coming Saturday, Central Michigan comes in to Lexington, Kroger Field. If I saw the numbers right, you all can let me know. 17-point favorite right now for Kentucky. Um, Michelle, they have yet to name their starting quarterback, and then in the last couple of days, we lost a very important piece of the offensive line. What's your take as the football season is 6 days away?
Well, no mistake about it that losing Landon Young is a big hit to us because of his experience. However, if this had happened, say, 2 seasons ago, I would have been in full-on panic mode.
Mm-hmm.
But one thing that has happened, and it's been slow but steady, and that is the quality of depth
Mm-hmm.
that we've accumulated on the rosters. And yeah, I got to go to media day and also the women's clinic, and Carrie and I talked about this. The thing that surrounds the program, and this is the coaching staff too. I mean, I've been to the clinic every year since Stoops has been there. The There's just this relaxed air about the coaching staff, and it seemed like in recent the previous years they were always just a little bit on edge,
Mm-hmm.
a little tense, and they just seem so relaxed. And the players, the air of confidence they have around them, and it's not cockiness. It's just a quiet confidence that they feel like they can compete and beat anybody. And I talked to Anthony White about this. I said, "What do you attribute that difference to?" And being a former football player, I take his opinion pretty seriously. And he
Mm-hmm.
said he thinks it's more of the team leadership,
Mm-hmm.
because you finally have everything from the Joker era is gone. All of that. This is
Right.
all Stoops things, and you've got players in there that are leaders and have learned from good leaders, and they're being good leaders, and they're making each other accountable. And the fact that they're doing that is taking a lot of pressure off of the coaching staff. They don't have to deal with the petty crap that's going on
Right.
because your team leaders are doing that. And then you got Freddie Maggard on staff. I mean, hello.
Yeah.
I mean, that should give you 2 extra wins. Whitefield, they're only going to win 5 games. Well, we got 7 just because Freddie Maggard's on staff. I swear that would be the truth.
Freddie Maggard.
Love the man.
Yeah, love Freddie. Depending on who you talk to, I've heard Carrie anywhere from 5 to 8 wins. ESPN, they did. I want to say during one of the Kentucky games, they did
Yeah, I
their
saw that.
8-4. I don't know. 8-4 might be pushing it. But one of the things, I know first game is Central Michigan, but game 2 is the Florida game. We've got to figure a way to shut that streak down. Year 6. This is year 6 for Stoops. What do you need to see out of this program in year 6 of Mark Stoops' tenure?
I need to see us covering receivers in the end zone twice. I'd like to see that for starters. I think this team can go 6. This is a tough schedule. It really is a tough schedule. I think we can get to 6 and get back to a bowl game. Of course, now bowl games, they're adding 4 or 5 more or something like that. So you may only have to win 5.
And we still don't have our bowl game, Carrie.
I know, right?
Wait a minute. Which is what? What bowl game?
Oh, well, we figured we should create our own bowl game.
Oh, okay.
It's going to be like the Tidy Bowl, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. And,
why not?
Yeah, why shouldn't we? Because everybody else is getting a piece of the pie. You get a lot of money. Nobody has to show up except the 2 teams.
Yeah.
But I think we can get to 6. We may, surprise somebody and sneak in a 7th. I want to see us be able to shut down people on defense. That's what I want to see in year 6. Right. I'm a defensive person. I like the defensive side of football, and I have been nothing but frustrated with Kentucky over the years and our lack of production in the secondary. And every year they say, "Oh no, our DBs, our safeties, man, this is the best secondary we've ever seen," and they get burned every time. Mm-hmm. So I really want to see improvement on that side of the ball. I really, really do.
Mm. Heather, jump in. HT.
Oh, wait, sorry. I'm here. Sorry about that. I don't know what else to say besides what the girls have already said. But at the end of the day, as long as the guys can show improvement and just, I don't know, it's going to be tough, Kevin. It's going to be tough.
Well, the best part of this Sunday night show is that we can take each game one at a time. So, looking ahead to Central Michigan this coming Saturday, Michele, who lines up under center?
I think that Terry Wilson will get the start. I also think that we will see Gunnar Hoke. I think we'll see both of them. I don't think you'll see a strong commitment one way or the other for this game, and I don't think that you'll see a whole lot of complex plays. I think that they're probably going to keep as much close to the vest as they can going into Florida.
Right.
The Florida situation, they've got a new coach, and from the reports I've read, things in their training camp have not been going well.
Right, I heard that too.
And I think that if we go down to Gainesville and if we pull off that win, that changes everything for the season, because I think that is a mental stumbling block for the team. Mm-hmm. You win that game, and I think 7-8 wins are a lock, because it's going to mean that much to them mentally that they can beat Florida, they can beat anybody. Right. Except maybe Alabama.
Mm-hmm. I know,
right? Carrie, same question. Who lines up, behind, who takes the first snap, if you will?
I think I agree with Michele. I think Terry's going to get the call, but I think that you're going to see a lot of handing the ball off to Benny Snell. Yeah, I think this first game, I think he's going to go for 100, maybe probably over 100. I think you're going to see a lot of him. So, I think we're going to actually win by a fairly decent margin. I know it's 17. Mm-hmm. I don't think that's necessarily too high. I know Central Michigan's one of these weird teams that they've been really good in the past. They went into Oklahoma State and beat Oklahoma State on that fluke that fluke call that let them run another play,
Yeah.
but they still won the game, right?
Right. Yeah. Right.
So they in the past they've been a decent MAC team. So but I think we can go in there and handle business, and hopefully that the team won't be looking ahead to Florida. That would be my only kind of concern with that.
Fair enough. Heather, who's your quarterback?
Oh, it's got to be Terry Wilson. Just from all the reports, especially recently, that we've heard about this team, he's gotten better with even short routes, and he's throwing the long ball well. It's what's interesting, and I don't think I don't know. The injury to Landon Young, obviously, is a huge blow to the offensive line.
Right.
But you know what? I think that Stoops, for the first time, and I feel comfortable saying this, Stoops and company have built up this program enough that not to discount what happened to Landon Young or his impact or what a good player he is. I think they've built it up to the point where it's kind of a next man up mentality. And I think these guys are going to perform. And I don't know, their schedule is tough. It's actually brutal. But I think that they're going to do a lot better than what most people will think.
Yeah, I think to round out, I do think Terry Wilson will get the start. I do expect Gunner. I actually do expect both Wilson and Hoke to take snaps. I do see a steady running attack, led by, of course, Benny Snell, which can keep things simple for the quarterbacks. Nothing really too complicated for them, and I think we do cover the spread, and we look ahead after Saturday to the Florida game. Again, Central Michigan is this coming Saturday, September 1st, 3:30 p.m. It's on ESPNU. All right, ladies, so we're about 5 minutes away from a hard stop for Michele. So let me kind of piggyback off of when we were doing the show previously. I let the panel give their final take, and Michele, I'm going to let you do one if you got one ready.
Well, I wasn't really prepared, but, off the cuff, I can come up with one.
Go.
I am so sick of hearing fans talk about checkerboards on the uniforms. I am so freaking over it. So I wrote an article this week, and if you wanted to believe some of the people you see on Twitter, everybody, the majority of people hate them. Well, I wrote an article about it. I posted it in 6 different Facebook groups. For every person that says they hate the checkerboards, there's 25 that'll come back and say they love them. Mm-hmm. Or that who cares what they wear as long as they win, which is my philosophy.
Mm-hmm.
And are you complaining it ain't going to do one bit of good because this is what Nike gave them? They're not going to change the Nike deal because you got your knickers in a knot. And this one guy, well, we'll just not go to any games until they change them. Yeah, that's going to be real effective. That's what they said. Some people said about the new logo. We've got enough power. We just won't buy the new stuff. Well, there's enough people that'll buy the new stuff. Get over yourselves. Mm. The uniform doesn't make the team. The team makes the team.
But what about those short? I mean, those shorts are starting to get shorter.
Okay, but don't you remember in the early 90s when the shorts started getting longer and baggier and longer, and everybody, then everybody was complaining about the shorts are too long. Well, now they're too short, and then there's black on them, and there's a checkerboard. Get over it. The one thing you can count on is the uniforms are going to change every single year. Sometimes it's a subtle change. Sometimes, like with the zigzags or the denim, it's a jarring change. But they're going to change.
Speaking of uniforms, since you brought it up, I'm going to ask everyone here, what was your take, Michele, on the black unis?
I thought they looked sharp as all get out. Mm. They had the nice Kentucky blue accent, And of course, I even tweeted that night, here's the fans last week. Get rid of the checkerboards. I wear anything but the checkerboard. So they come out in black uniforms with not one check anywhere. Oh my gosh, get rid of the black uniforms. Anything's better than black.
Yeah, I love it.
It's like trying to nail Jell-O to a tree to please some of these people.
Jell-O to a tree. All right, Carrie. Final take.
You want my take on the black uniforms, or
Well, you give your take on the real quick. Your take on the unis, and then your final take.
okay? I like them. The kids like them. I think they look good. As long as the kids like them, who cares? That's what I say. Yeah. Okay, so my final take is it's the most wonderful time of the year. Football's back. Tailgating's back. Can't wait to get out there at 8 a.m. on Saturday morning and get my stuff set up, get the cooler going. Can't wait to get into the stadium, and then can't wait to get back home and watch more football until midnight or 1 o'clock in the morning. So, yeah, it's the most wonderful time of the year.
Mm-hmm. I am going to commit to getting down there and doing some tailgating with you guys. So
yeah, bring it on.
Heather, final take.
You know what? I think that that our fan base should be happy about basketball, and I think we're going to be pleasantly surprised about football.
Okay. Same here. I do too. I'm looking forward to it. It's this football team. What is it? Help me out, Michele. You would probably know this. Return 17, 18 starters from last year. Something
Yes.
along, and
I don't have that exact number, but it's a healthy number.
yeah, it's a really good number, solid number, and
Dorian Baker's back.
Dorian
too.
Baker's back. And we've got some depth, and really,
And don't forget my favorite player, Michele.
Exactly. David Bouvier, who was the MVP of fall training camp.
Love him. 33. Love
And
him.
they said he did not drop a pass, not one.
nice. I'm excited.
And he's just the nicest guy. Oh, so good.
I do have to ask real quick before we shut it down. Here in Louisville this past week, Bobby Petrino, the University of Louisville football had their luncheon, and he made a proclamation that he thought that Louisville was going to beat Alabama.
Yeah. So now they're going to lose 60-10.
Yeah, I do get that you want to try to instill confidence with your players, and you got to talk them up. But I mean, it is Alabama. The spread is like 24, 25. Real quick, does Alabama cover the spread?
Alabama might doubly cover the spread because of what Petrino said. All he had to do was say, I think we can compete with Alabama, and, if everybody does it, we've got a chance.
Good.
That's going in with, we've got a chance to beat them. We've got to be focused. But coming in, we're going to beat them.
Yeah.
No, you're not now, buddy.
Carrie, spread.
It's my heart stop. I got to go, guys.
All right, go.
All right, bye, Michele.
Bye.
Carrie, Louisville, do they cover the spread? Alabama.
Lamar Jackson ain't walking through that door.
Mm-mm.
Yes, I think Alabama covers.
All right. Heather.
It's going to be a fun season. I think more than people think. More than people realize, rather. I'm excited. I think they have a lot of talent top to bottom. It's going to be a lot different. People, look, our schedule is terrible. It sucks. It's hard. But you know what? I'm kind of excited. And I haven't been this way in a long time.
Excited, and she can't hide it. But does Alabama cover the spread against Louisville?
Alabama is going to plant their flag in Bobby Petrino's forehead.
Nice.
He should have. Look, this team, this coaching staff, they should have always. Oh God, I cannot wait to see that. It's going to be a massacre. It's going to happen.
Football season. the power schools all kick off this coming weekend. So, all right, ladies, first show, kind of it's got my first. It's I had a little bit of a jitter. I haven't done one of these in a while, so
I know.
trying to find my